In the last month alone, in the city of Winnipeg, 5 Indigenous women lost their lives to violence and failing systems in the city of Winnipeg.
Tonight, recent deaths in Winnipeg have a local MP and advocacy groups asking for help and for action.
We have said our people are literally dying on our doorsteps.
Advocates for marginalized women and gender diverse persons register complaints with the federal government.
I didn't believe it. I got an email and I'm like, okay, I think maybe they emailed the wrong person.
And this Northern Shoshone artist is in the running for a prize worth $100,000. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. 2 groups have filed human rights claims to the federal housing advocate in Ottawa. The goal is to address the growing housing emergency for marginalized women and gender diverse people. Here's Annette Francis with more.
These women address the media next to the eternal flame in front of Parliament. Margaret Foe has been advocating for adequate housing for urban Indigenous women and girls in British Columbia for the past 28 years. She says research in her province indicates $7 billion is needed to help what is now a crisis.
And we have said our people are literally dying on our doorsteps. And we've been asked by federal representatives, are you at the breaking point? We as people are not at the breaking point, but our people are dying. So I would say that the housing structures and systems are beyond the breaking point. So I don't think we can afford to wait much longer.
Keepers of the Circle and the Women's National Housing and Homelessness Network filed the 2 claims. Arlene Hache says it's a momentous day.
There's over 400 groups and individuals across the country, diverse individuals and groups, that is composed of that group. And it's also coming from the National Indigenous Feminist Working Group, Housing Working Group. They compiled the research, they did the policy analysis, and they gathered testimony from those most impacted by Canada's failure to realize the right to housing.
Maria McGregor Pitawanakwat represents Keepers of the Circle. 4 years ago, she was evicted from her home in Whitefish River First Nation. She's hopeful the claims will mean action for Indigenous women.
And I'm hoping that they will respond to the recommendations in the human rights claim. The ones that I made in particular were recommendations for designing and building our own homes, having our own training program to do so, and having our own accreditation from the training program to do so, so that Indigenous peoples, women in particular, are able to build our own homes again.
According to Foe, the federal government's $300 million housing investment in its most recent budget is just a Band-Aid. She says between the provinces of Ontario and BC alone, over $20 billion is needed. Meanwhile, the federal housing advocate has 120 days to respond to the claim. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Ottawa.
To Manitoba now, where 53-year-old Lori Ann Manchis of Ebb and Flow First Nation west of Winnipeg is being remembered as a happy and loving person. A mother of 5 and grandmother of 7 who family members say had been living in Winnipeg and was active until her arthritis got worse and left her with mobility issues. Those mobility issues are partly why the woman's niece, Eugenia Houle, says the circumstances of the discovery of her aunt's body in the middle of a farm field earlier this month are so difficult for her family to understand.
That's what bothers all of us. And we still ask each other every day we ask each other, why would she be way over there? What was she doing way over there? What was she doing in a field?
The RCMP says investigators are awaiting the results of an autopsy and continue to investigate the circumstances of Manchis's death. They say at this point in the investigation, Manchis's death appears non-criminal in nature. Meanwhile, a plea for an around-the-clock safe space for the city of Winnipeg. NDP MP Leah Gazan and advocacy groups made the appeal in Ottawa today. They say Winnipeg is ground zero for for violence against Indigenous women and girls. Here's Annette Francis with more.
In the last month alone, in the city of Winnipeg, 5 Indigenous women lost their lives to violence and failing systems in the city of Winnipeg.
NDP MP Leah Gazan says despite the violence, Winnipeg is one of the few urban centres without a 24/7 safe space for women.
This is costing lives. This is leaving our community in a constant state of grief. Indigenous women, girls, 2S LGBTQIA+ individuals are not safe. We need help. I will continue to beg this government, but I can tell you, we should not have to be begging the government to have our right to live free of violence respected.
Dodie Jordan is executive director of Gunaganegic. She says she sees women at risk every day.
We are here to ask the government for help to establish an adequate safe space in Winnipeg with beds, training culturally appropriate staff, and long-term sustainable funding.
Jordan says there is currently a safe space called Velma's House that up until Monday had only been funded to stay open for 15 hours a day. But the increase in hours was done through an emergency investment. Not enough, according to Jordan.
It is indeed inadequate. It is currently in a deteriorating home that was always meant to be temporary. It's been broken into multiple times. It's infested with rats. Women deserve better.
Meanwhile, Gazan brought up the issue during question period, accusing the government of spending $0 from a $724.1 million violence prevention strategy announced in 2020.
So I asked the minister, why are they hoarding this money while people continue to lose their life?
Well, Minister, the work of frontline organizations like Velma's House are absolutely essential. They are literally saving lives. We are working across government to find immediate solutions for a 24/7 safe space because we know, Mr. Speaker, time is of the essence.
Annette Francis, APTN National News, Ottawa.
To the East Coast, where a Cape Breton man pleaded guilty to manslaughter and 2 counts of child abandonment on Monday. In 2019, Dwight Austin Isidore was charged with the second-degree murder of Mi'kmaq woman Cassidy Bernard. The 22-year-old's death shocked the Mi'kmaq community of Waikogama. Bernard's family vowed to find justice and held rallies to raise awareness of MMIWG. Bernard's body was discovered in her home on October 24th, 2018. Her twin infant daughters, found in the same room, were malnourished and dehydrated. Isidore is the biological father of Bernard's daughters. He will return to court for sentencing on July 6th. The federal government has been facing fierce criticism over COVID travel rules, airport delays, and chaos at airports. Today, another sign they are getting the message. Effective next Monday, people traveling by plane or train within Canada are no longer required to be vaccinated. And it's the same for Canadians traveling from here to international destinations. What hasn't changed are the rules for international travelers entering the country. Vaccination is required, as well as use of the ArriveCan app. Transport Minister Omar Alhabra says they did not base their decisions on airport wait times.
Was a period of discussions, of consultations, of looking at the big picture, of preparing ourselves for a potential wave in the fall, but the current situation today. So we had to look at all the options and all the data that we have. And after a thoughtful, deliberate, prudent discussions, we've reached this decision. So it's what Canadians expect us to do. We will always err on the side of public health and safety.
Advice that we're getting, and we're observing, of course, a market decline in the number of cases, and therefore in the threat to public health. And so I think it's time to move on from some of these measures. They are being suspended, of course. They could come back. The pandemic is not over, but it is now time to, we think, soften up some of the measures that are in place.
Time for a quick break. Still to come, a resolution to the fight over a small island. Stick around. Welcome back. Winiskewin Heritage Park near Saskatoon got a boost in its bid to become the province's first UNESCO World Heritage Site. A group of Western independent co-ops called Federated Cooperatives Limited is donating $1 million to the park. The money will help Winiskewin with programming, resource management, and its UNESCO application. Winiskewin announced the discovery of petroglyphs last fall. The park has to meet strict UNESCO criteria in its bid while also expanding its programming. They hope to add to their cultural offerings a medicine wheel, bison herd, interpretive center, and trails through multiple archaeological sites. And there are still more questions than answers. 10 days after a hit and run during a march for residential schools in Mission, BC, a 77-year-old male turned himself in the following day, but he's not been charged. Journalist Robert Jago was covering the walk and has raised concerns over the RCMP's handling of the incident. He spoke with Melissa Ridgen earlier.
Robert, you were covering the walk there. 5 people were hit by a truck on this walk. Your thoughts on the lack of charges? We're like 9 days later.
It's been 9 days already. I am surprised with the lack of charges. I mean, I've looked at other, just today in Vancouver, not very far from here, some protesters blocked a bridge. The police seized their cars and arrested everybody within 10 minutes. So I know that when police want to act, they can. You know, I've looked at other cases in Mission where there were hit and runs, and you know, you see an arrest within a day or two, usually, especially when you have the license plate number. Here we have video of the hit. We have video of him direct face. We have millions of witnesses. We have video of him fleeing the scene, which itself is a crime. We have video of him shouting and fleeing the scene, and there's not even illegal parking. And you know, when we reached out to the RCMP, they're not talking to any of us for video, and they keep, I don't want to say lying, because there must be some legal thing about that, but they're gaslighting us in their statements as well. They said that people who had posted video online haven't reached out to them. I mean, I've reached out to them 4 times, by email, by phone, and in person, and each time they're just nothing back. Well, I mean, one time they said something back to say that the case has not been moved to serious crimes, but has been moved to traffic services. So it's just, it is the most bizarre situation I've seen with any sort of police incident. It's like they're deliberately choosing not to file anything. They're, I guess, hoping it goes away, or they're going to wind out the statute of limitations, whatever it is on this.
Well, and this person, the driver, had turned himself in, according to the police, and they seized his vehicle. We don't know if they still have that. They said they'd seized it as evidence, but there's still no charges. I wanted to draw your attention to the press releases that the RCMP put out. You mentioned this being kind of bizarre in their handling of it. Initially, they had said in their initial release this driver was just impatient, like as though that's a reason to run over 4 or 5 people. And then the subsequent releases that they put out, you feel like you're being gaslit. You know, what's your take on this? I mean, you're a journalist. You see police news releases all the time. This smells different.
Yes, I mean, first off, impatient drivers honk their horns. This guy never honked his horn. And impatient drivers keep going and keep rushing. They don't stop and yell at you. So, I mean, there's nothing there that tells me this is an impatient person. This feels... I mean, someone brought to my attention another case in Mission where there was a Native man that went missing, and I think they found his body, and the police never did anything about it. And just near my house, there's the case of Chelsea Foreman. I mean, there's a mural on my building of Chelsea Foreman here, and the police, again, just let that go. I mean, it feels a lot like Thunder Bay writ large, that where the police just don't, they do the most surface, intangible investigation and just let it go because there is no institutional accountability when the victim's Indigenous.
We've reached out to the Mission RCMP for an interview. They did, however, respond via email confirming their serious crimes unit has now taken charge of the investigation. The email says, quote, the combined efforts of both the serious crime unit and the Traffic Services Unit will help to ensure that this investigation is done to the highest standard, but also as expeditiously as possible. It's a tiny island at the top of the world, but one that's been at the heart of a diplomatic dispute between Canada and Denmark for decades. Today, a resolution to share. Hans Island is in the Canadian Arctic. It's a barren speck of land located right between Canada's Ellesmere Island to the west and Greenland, an autonomous Danish territory to the east. A deal has been reached, settling a decades-long dispute between the two nations over this 1.3 square kilometer island, creating the world's newest land border.
Now we have a new land and maritime border, almost 4,000 kilometers, the longest maritime border in the world. And also, we've been able to settle the issue of this small but important island in the Arctic, which is called Hans Island. So it's a win-win-win. It's a win for Canada, it's a win for Denmark and Greenland. It is a win also for Indigenous people.
The agreement will divide the uninhabited Hans Island between Ellesmere Island in Nunavut and the Danish territory, Greenland. Time for another quick break. Coming up, a multi-talented artist from the Selkirk First Nation in the Yukon is shortlisted for a prestigious and lucrative arts award.
A lot of my art practice actually reflects on my own experiences, as well as just how unique it is to be an urban Indigenous person.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Sandra Seidel sent us this photo of the world's largest teepee located in Medicine Hat. The teepee is 215 feet tall, which is about equal to 20 stories high. Sandra mentioned she could see it coming as she drove down the highway. I used to live about 5 minutes away from the teepee. If you have a great photo of something fun, adorable, beautiful, cool, or neat, send it by email to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at Wednesday's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 23 for Halifax, showers and 10 in St. John's. 25 with rain in Kuujjuaq, 18 in Nain. Sunny and 28 for Montreal, showers and 27 for Val-d'Or. 28 with rain in Sault Ste. Marie, a cloudy 27 for North Bay. 24 with showers in Thunder Bay, cloudy and 26 in Sioux Lookout. 22 with rain in God's Lake, showers and 20 for Norway House. 22 in Winnipeg, 16 with rain in Dauphin. 16 and rain for Regina, 15 with showers for Saskatoon. 21 in Uranium City and Stony Rapids. In northern Alberta, cloudy and 22 for Peace River and Grand Prairie. 16 with showers in Edmonton, 18 and rain in Lethbridge. Rain and 16 for Vancouver, 26 with rain in Kamloops. 22 with showers in Prince George, 23 in Smithers. 21 and sunny in Old Crow, 18 in Whitehorse. 25 in Yellowknife, showers and 15 in Norman Wells. 5 for Sax Harbor, 4 in Paulatuck. 15 in Chesterfield, 13 in Whale Cove. Plus 1 for Resolute, 12 with rain in Iqaluit. A northern Shoshone artist is making a name for herself in the Yukon art scene, and as Sarah Connors tells us, she could soon be the winner of a 6-figure art prize.
Artist Crystal Silverfox was born and raised in Vancouver, far away from her First Nation in the Yukon. But now her northern Shoshone heritage is something she incorporates with every brushstroke.
A lot of my art practice actually reflects on my own experiences, as well as just how, I guess, how unique it is to be an urban Indigenous artist.
The Selkirk First Nation artist moved to Dawson City, Yukon last year. This month, she's staying at this art residency house in Whitehorse, a space where she can work at her craft, including painting, beading, and photography. One of the artist's favorite works is called Reconcile This, her take on truth and reconciliation and residential schools.
It is very difficult because for me, we lost our native language. Like, my grandmother was fluent in it and she lost it through the residential school. So I'm thinking about loss a lot in that piece. Ooh, I think I might need a green.
And now she's being recognized by one of Canada's highest art institutions. Silver Fox is one of 5 shortlisted artists for the Sophie Art Award. Presented by the National Gallery of Canada, it's one of the biggest awards for emerging Canadian artists. It also comes with a hefty grand prize of $100,000, and all nominees will receive $25,000.
I didn't believe it. I got an email and I'm like, okay, I think maybe they emailed the wrong person. I'm gonna wait. And I think I didn't really believe it until they announced it.
Though she didn't grow up in the Yukon, it's now where she calls home. If she wins, Silver Fox hopes to use the money to further her own practice. She says she'd also like to help her First Nation by starting an arts program.
I think that would be like ideal. I make art not for myself, but for the future.
Today, she's painting flowers found in the territory, but her work often incorporates significant themes like transnationalism.
So it's just, how can I explore the fact that I am Canadian, I do have settler background, but I'm also Indigenous and I'm an Indigenous citizen. So how do I put those two together?
Silver Fox and the other nominated artists will have their work displayed at the National Gallery in Ottawa, where the winner will be announced this fall. Silver Fox says for now she's still getting used to the recognition and the impact she's making on Canadian art.
I have this kind of issue with imposter syndrome. I'm constantly feeling like I'm not really a legitimate artist, but then when I get, so be shortlisted, I know that my art actually has an impact and it means something.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Good luck to Crystal and all the others nominated for the big prize. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Tuesday. For news anytime or more on anything you've seen here, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. And stick around. Coming up next, an encore presentation of Face to Face. It's our interview with residential school survivor Geraldine Grandma Shingoose. She reacts to the Prime Minister's vacation on the first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, and much more. That's next. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night.